Good morning. Good morning, my beautiful friends. This is your wake up call with Maui Paul. I am Maui Paul. We are here today to say some nice things about ourselves. I want to say thanks to everybody for being here. Good morning. Let's see here. Good morning, Dan, coming in from Buford, and Jan from probably from your nest at PVR. Good morning, Shauna from up by Big Canoe, and Lane as well. Nice to see you here today. Good morning, Tony. Wonderful to see you on the call this morning. I want to say thank you so much for being here. We will be praying for you, Tony. We understand. I understand anxiety, depression. You could always reach out to me if you need anything because you got my private message. But thank you so much for sharing that with us. We'll definitely be keeping you in our thoughts and prayers as you go through this difficult time. Um, let's see. So, anyways, but for right now, we are here today to say some nice stuff about us, and uh, I've uh, I've actually selected the card already because well, I don't need any more surprises in my life at this exact point, and so I picked a card very intentionally last night and chose to and loaded it into the wake up call today. And so, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at that card. I'm going to ask you if you are the affirmation, and we are going to respond out loud together. I am that affirmation. As we do that, we are just building into our own lives, empowering ourselves to live in and be the best versions of ourselves today. So let's have some fun. Let's pull the card and say that today I am flexible. I am flexible. I adapt to changing conditions with ease. So I am flexible. I adapt to changing conditions with ease. Are you flexible? You are flexible. You adapt to changing conditions with ease. And I'm going to write that down in the comments. I encourage you guys to do the same thing as we affirm that we are flexible people, that conditions are going to change and we're going to adapt to them. Every day is a different day, and the day that we live is never the one that we expect that we're going to live. Even if our lives are fairly predictable, there's always stuff that goes on in our lives that's not. And to the degree that we are able to adapt to the changing conditions of our lives and surf these changes instead of getting rolled over by them, to that degree, we are winning. Life is going to ask us to do different or do things differently than we thought that we were gonna. And I don't know about you, but my life has turned out completely differently than I thought it would. When I was younger, I was obsessed with the idea that I could eliminate the risk from my life by just making sure that I had a really solid life plan. And part of my really solid life plan was that I was going to invest in the stock market and that I was just going to allow compounding interest to do its thing. And that by the time that I retired, I'd have a couple of $1,000,000. And all I had to do was save about $500 a month for the rest of my life. And I did that for a while. And I saved and I saved, and I had nothing that resembled a life. I played World of Warcraft all day long, except when I was working, of course, and then in which case I was working. And all of this, and I knew what my career was going to look like, and I knew that eventually, after I worked my career for long enough, that I would eventually get to be like a supervisor. Eventually my salary would increase to maybe 50% more than what it was at the beginning of my career, and I knew that I could do it. I knew that my plan would work. I knew that based on all historical data, that all I needed to do was just kind of keep at it with my job, and that eventually I would, that I would get to live this life that was completely free of risk, where I could be assured of having enough money in retirement to be able to do whatever I wanted. And let me tell you, that plan sucked. That plan sucked because it did not account for personal growth. It did not account for me changing. It did not account for my desires changing. It did not account for 2008. Looking at you, 2008. It did not account for a whole lot of different stuff that happened in my life. And as I got older, I learned that all the things that I had been afraid of, all of the insecurity and instability that I had been afraid of, that I thought that just having a big pile of money would would cure, that all of those insecurities were actually just amplified by having a big pile of money. Because in the end, my plan, which looked great on paper, was not flexible. It was a very rigid plan. It involved me doing the same thing that I hated for the whole rest of my life, which is a long time, which is not sustainable. And so, a couple of years into my foolproof plan for how to, make sure that I would never have to worry in life, I was so sick of my plan. I was so sick of doing everything that I just needed a drastic change, which is how I ended up selling everything and quitting my job and moving to Central America for 7 years. And let me tell you, that was not in the plan. But even though it wasn't in the plan, when I look back at it, one of the reasons that I did it was because I realized that I was rigid in my thinking. I realized I was rigid in my mind. I realized that my mindset sucked and needed to be fixed, and that I needed a complete and total change of scenery. Which, let me tell you, moving to Central America will give you a complete and total change of scenery for sure. And boy, let me tell you, also, it gave me some changing conditions that I needed to adapt to, not at the beginning with anything that even remotely resembled ease. The conditions changed and I adapted, but there was lots of kicking and screaming. And yet, when I went down there, one of the first thing that I noticed was that the people down there, uh, the people, specifically the expats down there, the folks that were down there that spoke English that I was able to get to know, all were very good at adapting to changing conditions because the conditions changed rapidly in Central America. And so that was one of the things that I envied about them, that I thought to myself, I was like, wow, I wish that I had more of that in my life. Well, let me tell you, after about 7 years of doing it, I had more of that in my life. And I realized that all of the worries and all of the fears that I had that were preventing me from being flexible, all of those things were also preventing me from living life. Realized that a bit of uncertainty is a good thing to have in life, that a bit of uncertainty is a sign that we are learning, that we are growing, that we are changing, that we are developing, that we are taking risks, that we are reaping the rewards from taking those risks. See, the plan that I had originally to work for 60 or to work for 45 years and then retire, and be doing the same thing at the beginning of my career that I was at the end of my career, and that plan that I had to surf the waves of the stock market and just earn an average of 8 to 10% annually for the rest of my life, that plan, while very predictable, was incredibly boring. And it didn't account for the fact that life changes, that the world changes, that I change. It didn't account for any of that stuff. It just kind of assumed that I would be willing and able to just do the same thing. Well, of course, I was not willing or able to do it. And in particular, I was not willing to do it because as I grew up a bit, my standards changed. And I got to the point where it just wasn't feasible anymore for me to follow that plan. And then I had to start being flexible because when I wasn't doing my rigid plan anymore, I had to do different things. And those different things led me to Central America. They led me to Hawaii. They led me to paradise where I live right now. They led me to a life that was so much better and is so much better. Even though it's not as secure as my original plan was, it is so much better and has set me up for so much continual success than I ever would have or could have given myself, even in my wildest dreams. Taking the risks in life has brought me to where I am today, and where I am today is a really cool spot. And so I decided that being flexible is very important and has reduced my neurosis significantly. When things don't have to be just so, when stuff adapts and I'm able to adapt with it, it allows me to have a much better life because I don't need to be worried or concerned or neurotic about the way that I think things ought to be. If 15 years ago me was able to see the life that I'm living right now, 15 years ago me would wonder how on earth I ever had developed the mindset to be able to live like this. I would be absolutely positively freaked out about the way that I live right now. And yet, the way that I live right now is tremendously rewarding. It's tremendously enjoyable, and it is literally more than I ever would have given myself. It's more than I ever even knew was possible to give myself. Like such an incredible paradigm shifts or so many paradigm shifts have happened in my life. The rules of my life are 100% different now than they were beforehand. And so I am flexible. I adapt to changing conditions with ease. And now I have a little human in my care. And let me tell you, I'm on her schedule. I have to be flexible because if something changes with her, something immediately has to change with me. Is she in a place where she could hurt herself? I have to stop what I'm doing and get her out of that spot. Did she, did, you know, did she decide to use the bathroom right now? Well, let me tell you, I got to deal with that right now. Did she wake up and is she hungry? I stop what I'm doing and I feed her. The fact is that I'm able to adapt joyfully to these changing conditions because I've trained myself to do it. And so all of the stresses that all the websites talk about being a parent, those things are not particularly stressful to me. They definitely require work. They require patience, but they're not stress inducing the way that a lot of other parents think that they're stress inducing because I've cultivated this flexibility. And so that allows me, when life changes, to be able to roll with the punches and allow love what is and allow what is to be without being unhappy about it. Which ultimately, for every moment that I'm happy in life, that it's just a contributor to my happy life. So I am flexible today. You are flexible as well, because when I look at the lives of my friends do all manner of really interesting stuff and say yes to life in ways that a lot of the people in this world never have the courage to do. And so I find that when I'm a flexible person, I'm surrounded by other flexible people. We attract who we are. So I'm flexible today. You are flexible as well. We adapt to changing conditions with ease. All right. I will talk to you guys tomorrow at 9 a.m. We'll be back with an overview of the week. Until then, I want to say thank you to everybody who has come by. So good morning again to Dan and Jan, Shauna, Lane, Tony. Wonderful to see all you guys here today, and I really appreciate y'all coming out. Shauna says, "God loves you right where you are, and too much to let you stay there." Do love that, Shauna. And indeed, it's true. I will talk to y'all tomorrow at 9 a.m. Tony, you're in my prayers. I love you. I care about you. I love all of you. I care about all of you. And I will talk to you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Until then, yeah, aloha from paradise.